Tom Ellis' perfect FBI. CIA partner can make up for Chicago Fire's most tragic death. Dick Wolf shows may air on different networks, but CBS, upcoming FBI spinoff CIA, could redeem one of the most tragic losses in NBC's Chicago Fire by casting the right partner for Tom Ellis' main character. Even better, it could create a much-deserved opportunity for a former member of the Chicago Fire cast who hasn't been working as of late. Talk of redemption typically skews toward how CIA can redeem FBI. Most Wanted and FBI. International's cancellations. CIA's announcement after the loss of two beloved spinoffs was somewhat controversial, although Ellis casting eased concerns. But with two actors leaving after the Chicago Fire Season 13 finale, it's a reminder that one of the series' previous actors is perfect for CIA. Most Lucifer fans may have felt a tinge of familiarity when Tom Ellis' CIA character Hart Hoxton was first described as a devil-may-care agent who plays by his own rules. Meanwhile, Hart's partner is meant to be a more straight-laced FBI agent who operates by the book. In other words, Hoxton's partner is the Chloe Decker to his Lucifer Morningstar. This would obviously make Lauren German's CIA casting a perfect fit. She and Ellis perfected their chemistry over several years of doing Lucifer together, but it's the earliest seasons of Lucifer that best resemble the presumed relationship they'd have on CIA. There's an opportunity for romance to blossom, but the true hook is merely how they manage their professional relationship. Although Lucifer found it boring to work by the book, while Decker found Morningstar's approach lawlessly frustrating, they begin to appreciate each other enough over time that they recognize the need for each other's strengths. Since Hoxton and his partner will likely follow a similar trajectory in CIA, it's sensible to cast a pair who've already navigated that arc before. Lauren German's Leslie Shea brought a great deal of levity to the first two seasons of Chicago Fire. Like current Firehouse teammate Lizzie Novak, Shea took relatively few things seriously outside of her work as a paramedic. But her light was extinguished when debris from an explosion struck her in the head and killed her in the season 2 finale. Although Leslie Shea's Chicago Fire death may have been tragic, her infectious sense of humor and warm friendship with Severide allowed her to wring the most out of life. Having German bring these qualities to Ellis' partner in CIA would bring some semblance of Shea back to life, with the added benefit of differentiating her non-working persona from Chloe Decker's. Rebecca Jones' self-inflicted death just a few episodes prior to Leslie Shea's fatal injury was no doubt tragic, but there was at least an emotional storyline leading up to it. Shea died without foreshadowing in an explosion caused by an arsonist whose justice was delivered on another show, leaving any Chicago Fire fans who don't follow the crossovers without closure. Worse was simply losing one of Chicago Fire's most likable characters. Shea was the fun-loving type who'd probably appreciate knowing her killer looked just like the coolest villain from Prison Break. In the absence of her mirth, Severid fell apart so badly that he became an unreliable binge drinker who took advantage of a grieving woman to mask his own pain. Future replacements Sylvie Brett and Lizzie Novak certainly brought presence to the 51, the former particularly filling a hole in Gabby and Kelly's lives after losing Shea. But Leslie Shea's ultimately proven irreplaceable since her death in Chicago Fire. If CIA can bring even a semblance of her spark back to the screen, it couldn't happen a moment too soon. It's been years since Chicago Fire fans were left shattered by the loss of one of Firehouse 51's most beloved members, Brian Otis Savonsek. His death in Season 8 was not only tragic, but felt like the emotional fulcrum that shifted the entire tone of the series. His humor, heart, and camaraderie made him irreplaceable, or so we thought. Enter Tom Ellis. Yes, Lucifer's devilishly charming star has been quietly circling with new series in development that could not only expand the One Chicago universe in a bold direction, but also emotionally resurrect the spirit of what Otis brought to the show. And it all hinges on Ellis' new role as a fiercely intelligent and deeply wounded CIA agent who forms an unlikely partnership with an FBI operative, played by none other than Joe Manoso, reprising his role as Joe Cruz. This is more than just a crime procedural. This is a spiritual continuation. The setup, a shadow after the events of Otis' death, the new series, tentatively titled 51, Covered, opens with Joe Cruz trying to move on from the firefighting world. But when a joint task force between the FBI and CIA targets a domestic terrorism ring operating under the guise of emergency response units, Cruz's past becomes the key to cracking the case. And the agent who recruits him. Tom Ellis' character, Julian Hart, a British ex-MI6 operative now working for the CIA. Hart is everything Cruz is not: refined, calculated, and coldly brilliant. But he also carries a tragic backstory. He lost his partner years ago during a mission gone wrong in Berlin. The way he talks about her, the quiet grief in his eyes, evokes the exact same ache that Cruz carries for Otis. Their bond is immediate, if begrudging at first. A new bromance with old Hart. Cruz and Otis were one of Chicago Fire's most iconic duos. Their friendship transcended background, personality, and even danger. They were brothers in every sense of the word. While Julian Hart is no Otis, the chemistry between Ellis and Manoso brings something fresh to the screen. An emotionally taut, sharp-witted camaraderie that plays like the evolution of what came before. Early episodes show Cruz reluctant to get involved, hesitant to return to any kind of uniform. But when Hart drops a classified file, one that reveals Otis may have been indirectly targeted as part of an experimental domestic surveillance program tied to the case, they both plunge headlong into the mystery. Suddenly, Otis' death isn't just a tragedy. It's a clue. As they navigate government corruption, false identities, and high-octane shootouts across Chicago's grittiest alleyways and its glossiest high-rises, Hart and Cruz become a team that redefines what partnership looks like: gritty, loyal, and always operating just outside the rules, filling the void without erasing it. What makes this pairing special is that the show doesn't try to replace Otis. Instead, it honors him. Every few episodes, there are quiet moments. Cruz looking at an old patch Otis gave him, or Hart revealing that he learned Russian from the same textbooks Otis used at the academy. These aren't cheap Easter eggs. They're soulful nods to the legacy that Chicago Fire built. And it's not just Cruz who evolves. Hart, who has spent years burying his grief behind dark suits and darker missions, begins to find a sense of purpose again. Watching him awkwardly bond with Cruz's family, especially when Joe's baby calls him Tomb, confusing him with her favorite cartoon villain, is just one of the many ways Ellis brings warmth beneath the edge. The return of familiar faces. As the story deepens, so do the crossovers. Stella Kidd is brought in during a hostage crisis. Severide shares intel from his work with the arson squad. Even Bowden makes a powerful cameo, showing up when Cruz's loyalty is questioned during a congressional inquiry. The show carefully weaves One Chicago DNA into its espionage-heavy plot, maintaining emotional continuity while building something entirely new. In one especially moving episode, Cruz visits Otis' memorial bench, this time with Hart beside him. "I never really said goodbye," Cruz admits. Hart, always composed, places a single coin on the bench. "We never do. We just carry them forward." A show that makes the pain worth it. What makes this concept resonate so strongly is that it doesn't just bring back the adrenaline of Chicago Fire. It brings back the heart. Ellis Julian Hart is no carbon copy of Otis, nor is he there to replace him. Instead, his presence gives crews and fans a new chapter. One that acknowledges loss but also transformation. With its mix of high-stakes action, emotional vulnerability, and grounded character work, 51. Covert becomes a show that not only explores the gray areas of national security, but also the personal battlegrounds of healing and friendship. Alice and Minoso are magic together. Cruz's raw Chicago Fire meets Hart's polished MI6 steel. And somewhere in that friction, a new kind of flame is born. The legacy lives on Otis may be gone, but his legacy isn't. Through Cruz, and now through Hart, the essence of what he represented, bravery, humor, and brotherhood, lives on. And in a world where shows often move on too quickly from loss, this series dares to pause, reflect, and rebuild.